Oh boy, we are back, baby. It is the big day that I've talked about for a long time. It's been a long time coming, guys. I am back on the caffeine. Had my first cup of coffee. I was gonna have it on the pod here. I was gonna drink it in live, uh, in live. I was gonna drink it live and describe to you guys what my body was feeling, but I got greedy and I just had it. I said, you know what? I want to have this some alone time with this cup of coffee, and that's what I did. And let me tell you what, feels good to be back. I my body was buzzing. Caffeine is a drug, and what I realized is my body just needs it. It just wants it. I hate feeling like my body. What's the word? I hate feeling like I need to depend on something, whether that's any sort of medications or whatever. I want to try to, you know, be my true self, but I think my true self is caffeinated. I think that's what it is. And feels good to be back. Had a nice little, I bought a bunch of stuff. I think I mentioned it on previous pods, but what I did is I bought a little drip. What do you call it? It's like you just boil the water and then you put it over the cup and then you pour it onto the coffee grounds and then it just drips. Whatever the little drip, whatever that's called. Uh, and the reason I bought that is because look, I'm I'm getting more and more paranoid. We talked about the pans and the nonstick stuff last podcast, I think, or maybe the podcast before that, and that got me thinking like, oh, well, my coffee maker is made of plastic and it's heating up water, and is that bad? Should I not be doing that? That's probably not good. So I bought this stainless steel metal thing, and I was like, that'll be healthy. But then a buddy messaged me and he goes, I heard the pod, and I agree. The nonstick stuff is no good, and he recommended me buying stainless steel. But he was like, but also a lot of stainless steel that is made in China, they mix it with like bad metals that can be toxic. So you have to be careful about that. And I was like, good lord, dude, is there anything I can buy out there that's healthy? Am I just ingesting bad stuff nonstop? The answer is yes. And if you think about it too much, it will upset you. So try not to think about it too much. I'm trying a little bit different setup here. I have lowered the volume on the Zoom here for recording. So I'm trying to keep the mic a little bit closer, but hopefully it's not like overpowering with the S's and with the pops and the P's and the B's. So we'll find out. I'm trying to fine tune it. But thanks for joining, guys. Another episode of the Weekly Daily Podcast. Feels good. Got a nice run in this morning. It's nice and chilly outside. Perfect weather for running. I've got my little compression socks on. Compression socks that are covering my calves. Are those socks? Or is it just a slip on calf thing? I don't know. But I got back, okay, made some coffee. It's funny because I recorded like 4 Instagram stories to be like, about to drink coffee for the first time, pretty big deal. And I kept recording it, and I just felt like a dumb idiot, just like a big old dumb fraud idiot. And I didn't post it. I said, you know what? Sometimes you just got to have things for yourself. And it's not because I wanted it for myself. I wanted to share it. I look like a Dumbo, dude. A big ear Dumbo. Is that Dumbo? Was that the elephant with big ears? Which, first off, elephants already have big ears. I don't get it. What was Dumbo's whole thing? Could he fly with his ears? Sometimes I look back on those old children movies and books, and you're like, what in the world? My childhood, just a big ear elephant? That's what I was watching? That's what was educating me? I was watching Reading Rainbow and Dumbo, which kind of rhymes a little bit. And you know what? I didn't turn out very smart. Maybe they should have just had an elephant with normal size ears and he could have just been like informative, not a goofball. But also maybe, it was probably like a representation of children who it's like, hey, everybody's a little different. Don't let that affect you. So maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. I don't think I felt that message at all. I was a very small child. I was made fun of a lot for that. And boy, was that not fun. But I will say it's funny because it just molds you into who you are, which my only deflection was just being silly and goofy and like making fun of myself more. So I don't know. Where am I going with this? I'm not sure. What I'm trying to say is the caffeine feels good in my body right now. And you know what? Feels good to be back. I will say I timed it 15 minutes after my first sip. I did have a bathroom emergency. And, number one, of course, this is a clean podcast. You know what? I don't go number two. My body is very efficient and it just takes stuff in and uses it 100%. It was like that. I don't know if you guys ever watched It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but there's an episode where I think Dennis and Dennis and Dee, two of the main characters, like I think they got addicted to pills or something not good, something illegal. And I think because of that, Dennis got like super constipated. But in his high mind on these drugs, he was like, my body is 100% efficient and it is just utilizing all of this stuff. I don't need to go number two anymore. Anyways, that'll be the last I mention of number two. I don't think, again, this podcast is supposed to be informative and educational. And number two, I don't know anything about number two stuff. Anyways, it's good to be here. I've got a lot going on. It's been a good last week. I've got a little bit of an ant problem going on in the apartment, which is obnoxious. I live on the garden level. Garden level, I think that's what it's called. I think garden level is like half basement, whereas first floor is, you get the ground starts where your floor is at. Garden level, you're like where the window is, that's where the ground's at. Anyways, I think I'm on a level where ants can easily access because ants live in the dirt and, I don't know how they get it. The heat, first off, let me take a step back. The heaters here, it's like old radiators, I think. And they're not like the traditional radiators that look, I don't know the difference in radiators. I don't know the difference in heating systems. I don't know why I'm even trying to explain it. As I thought about it, I was like, I'm not going to be able to explain the difference in this with my limited vocabulary. But what I will say is I think it's the type that has water go through it and it heats the water. I don't know if that's what all radiators do or heaters, whatever. But when they turn on, and it's not even just mine. Mine make a little like a little rattling noise, but like the apartments around me, they turn on and they make the weirdest creaking, rattling vibration sound. And it's like all the time. Like literally while I'm sleeping, I just hear it. And it's the same pattern of noises. And it's kind of hard to sleep, if I'm being honest. It's kind of like in a different way, but if you remember the AOL, like the dial-up of internet, like that same noise, it's similar to that. I mean, it's not that aggressive, but it's like the same pattern where you're like, ugh, cut it out. It's too much. Anyways, where the radiator's at in my kitchen, the ants are like coming in from there. So there's got to be a little mini ant tunnel from there to the outside or whatever. I don't know how bugs get in. Okay, bugs are tiny and they find a way. They're resilient. But what I did is these little ants, which by the way, I will find them crawling on me, which is a little disconcerting because it's like if they're crawling on my body, how many ants are in here? I digress. I saw some ants crawling around, so I bought some live ant bait. And I've never used this. I've never used this stuff before. I'm not familiar with it. Read the instructions. It's like a little liquid thing. It's basically like just put the little, tear off the top, put the little liquid thing around where you see them, and leave it there for a couple weeks. And it explained, I didn't know, I'm a novice when it comes to ant information, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot in the last 3 days. So, they say that you live and you learn. And when I was in high school and stuff, learning calculus and whatever stuff that I've never used again, I never expected, hey, when you're 36, you're going to learn a lot about ants. Okay, you're going to have an ant problem and you're going to nip it in the bud. And you're going to be able to go on a podcast that you produce that dozens of people listen to. Okay, and when I say dozens, maybe 12 on a good day. So, dozen. That's funny, thinking about a baker's dozen. I get a baker's dozen viewers on a good day, just a dozen on a regular day. Anyways, this live ant bait, it said, put it out, and what happens is ants have, I don't know what you call it. It's basically like there's ants that go out from the colony and seek out stuff, and then they come back and they report that to the colony, and then like everybody follows their lead from there. So basically, I guess the scent that's there, an ant will come and find this bait, which I guess is just poison. I guess they think it smells good and whatever, but it's not making them stronger. Let me say that. It's a nice way of saying they eat it and they no longer live. But one comes out and finds it, then it reports to the colony, and then they all come to it. And it's kind of interesting because there's a lot of, when you think of like bugs and issues that you deal with when it comes to just bugs or mice or what do you call them? Pests and rodents. There's a lot of stuff out there to like to mitigate, to eliminate, to help with that stuff. But a lot of that, it's like a mousetrap. You're like, okay, I put out mousetraps, but like these mice seem to be pretty smart. Let me tell you what, this ant bait, it's so effective, it's like almost sad. Because you're like, maybe this will clean up some of the ants. No, dude, when I tell you this is just wiping out the whole ant colony, it truly, like that one ant goes and just betrays its entire colony. Okay, its entire community. It's like, hey guys, I found a sweet nectar in the kitchen of this dummy. He just put out food for us, okay? We snuck into his apartment and now he's feeding us. And now this entire ant colony is destroyed. So you just see all these ants like filing in one after another and just crawling in this ant bait and then just dying. Which, by the way, that like eliminating an entire community of something that only works with like insects. I don't know that you'd be able to do that with like rodents, something bigger, something like that can make facial expressions or something. Like as bad as mice are, I don't know if there's like 10 mice, I don't know how I would respond if I saw one mouse come out, sniff around this cheese I have in a trap, and then watch it go back, tell all its friends about it, and then watch 10 mice come and all get like killed at the same time. That would be so aggressive. I'd be like, oh man, this is working too well. This has really solved the problem that I was looking for it to solve, but it hurts me in my heart a little bit to see 10 mice. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being lame because mice do stink. I've had mice before, and you are like, let me get some traps and take care of this. But that's what I'm dealing with now. I'm just witnessing 1,000 ants die. And you see them, they go in the little nectar, the bait stuff, and then some of them stay in there and just like drown, I guess. But some of the other ones they'll like come out, but they're, again, whatever it is, poison or whatever, they'll come out and they're just like kind of doing like this little ant dance. They're just on the floor, kind of like zonked out on this poison and just doing a little ant dance. That's the name of this episode, the ant dance. But yeah, hopefully it's kind of a bummer because when you see that obviously ants are getting in, it's like, okay, say I take care of this colony, there's got to be more ants. I mean, these ants are the tiny ones. It's like, what? Another colony is probably going to come in immediately after. Do I have to just constantly put this ant bait out? We'll see. I will say pretty cheap. I think I paid like $12 and it comes with 12 of these things. So for $1, you can kill thousands of ants, which if you do the death per ant on that, pretty good cost. You go per ant, that's about 0.0001 pennies. Okay? Whatever that is. It's a very, very, you know what? A lot of deals with inflation, especially now, you're like, not a good deal. Okay? Ant bait, pretty good deal. But, yeah. Anyways, I'll get off the ant topic. I went to the dentist this week. That was kind of the big thing that I did this week, which is embarrassing to say, but first time going to the dentist since 2020. Don't do the math, okay? It's too long to wait. It's too long to wait. Here's the deal. I went, I eat very healthy. I brush my teeth. I do all this stuff. But I always forget because I go in and I'm like, all right, what's going to be the damage? And the dentist was like, no cavities, but a lot of plaque buildup. And that's the thing you forget about. You're like, oh yeah, that's why they scrape your teeth with a metal pick because it just builds up plaque. Even if you're brushing your teeth inside. I don't know what plaque is exactly, but I guess it's just a coating of food that you can't get off. I don't know. But fortunately, they scraped that all off. It had been so long since I've been to the dentist that literally a lot of stuff had changed. You know when you haven't been somewhere for so long and you see like changes and you're like, ooh, this might be an indication I need to come more often. One of the things, so I go there, and the first thing they did was they basically told me, they go, hey, because I wanted to just get a cleaning. And they're like, hey, since you're a new patient, we'll have you come in, we'll do the x-rays, we'll do like all the initial stuff. And if there's time, we'll have you do the cleaning after that. But if there's no time, we'll just have to reschedule another day for the cleaning. So I go in there, and I start out with the x-rays. The lady's doing the x-rays on me. And first off, the x-rays, I don't know if you guys have done the x-ray stuff before, but they put this like metal thing into your mouth, which props your teeth into like a certain position, and then take the x-rays to get, they do a bunch of different angles to get a bunch of different angles and positions of your teeth, I guess, to see all around. But what they did was the little metal thing, I've never had this before. And again, I haven't been in so long. Maybe I'm just misremembering. But they put like a Ziploc bag over it. I guess because instead of like cleaning the metal thing every time, which hopefully they still clean it, but they put like a plastic bag over it and then just shove that in my mouth. And it did not fit in my mouth well, in the sense that in past times that I've done that, it's like, okay, we put this in and your teeth kind of like clamp down in a natural way. This time there's like little metal edges that were kind of like pointing in all directions. And she would put it in my mouth and she'd be like, all right, bite down. And then like the metal parts were just like jabbing the roof of my mouth or like underneath my tongue, like in very sensitive areas, to the point where I thought I was like bleeding. And she's like doing the x-ray, and I'm like on the brink of being like, stop, I have to take this out of my mouth. Anyway, she's doing all the x-rays, and about halfway through, I realize that she hadn't put the chest protector on me, which I only like connected those dots because she pulled the x-ray machine out of like this cabinet, and as she was doing the x-rays, that cabinet was still open, and I just see the chest protector laying there. And so I get like halfway through, and I'm like, oh, she didn't put the chest protector on. And then in my head, I'm genuine. This is how non-confrontational I am. I was like, look, Ben, it's just a little radiation. Don't be weird about it. And then I just, as I do, started to spiral. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Is she like, she forgot to do this? How much radiation is coming from x-ray machines? Is this like a lawsuit? Do I need to talk to, do I need to talk to the manager after this? Rather than just being like, excuse me, ma'am, you didn't put the chest protector on. But so I started spiraling on it, and I was like, oh no, this is going to ruin my next week, because I'm like too scared to say anything to her. Not too scared, I'm just not confrontational. I was like, whatever, like, don't worry about it. And then fortunately, because this would have ruined the rest of my day, but fortunately I saw a little piece of paper that basically said, like, the law has changed, and we have determined, or it has been determined, that you no longer have to wear the chest protector. And so I was like, whew, that's one of those rare things where you start to spiral, and then there's just a message that ends the spiral, just nips it in the bud right away. I was like, oh, thank goodness. So I got the x-rays done. Then the dentist comes in, and he does the, whatever. Dentist, most of their job is very simple. I say this a little hyperbolically, but 95% of their job is just looking into people's mouths and being like, that tooth is brown. That's not the right color. Yeah, I'll send you to one of my assistants. They'll take care of it. Okay? Good to meet you. We'll see you next time. They just come in with a little metal thing, and they just tap it on each of your teeth, and then they're like, no cavities, 1 or 2 cavities. This tooth was a little soft. I think that means that it's falling apart. Your teeth are supposed to be hard. That one was a little soft. I think that's not good. I'll send you to my assistant. She'll take care of whatever's wrong with your teeth. But no, the guy was nice. He came in and he did that. No cavities. Crazy. Pretty wild that I have no cavities. But then he started doing a check of my gums, which every time I go to the dentist, they always say the same thing. I feel like I've talked to other people and they say the same thing. They're like, yeah, your gums are receding. How hard do you brush your teeth? This is what he goes, what are you brushing your teeth with? And I was like, what am I brushing with? A brush for teeth, also known as a toothbrush. What are you talking? And they always say the same thing. They're like, you're brushing too hard. Are you brushing with the what do you call it? The toothbrushes with like a hard bristles, or like I don't know what they call it exactly. But it's like, no, I've gone to the dentist. They said, go to the soft bristles. So I have the soft bristles. And they're like, well, you're brushing away your gums. And, at some point, your gums are going to be totally gone, and you're going to have to get surgery and have those grafted back on. And it's like, you guys have been telling me that since I was 18. I've never met anybody who's brushed away their gums completely. Do you guys know anybody? Have you guys, is this the same experience that you guys are having? Have you guys ever had your gums grafted? Who's doing this? Sounds like a very major, expensive surgery. Just sounds like big dentist, just out here ripping people off. Just being like, hey, your teeth are about to fall out. It's a pretty big deal. So of course he's like, you gotta buy the electric toothbrush, and of course I did. I'm just spending money left and right. It's bad, which I'm too impatient. I'm gonna try to stick with it. But the electric toothbrush is something about brushing my teeth. It's just embedded in my brain. Like I just have to aggressively do it. There's food on there. I want to get it off. I don't want to slowly just go up and down and let the little vibration. You're like, what are we doing here? I got to be in bed in 26 seconds. I want to brush it off. Okay. I don't have time. I don't have 60 seconds to have this electric toothbrush go the slowest, you know, be as slow as possible. Anyways, he did this little gum check that I've never had. He went in, and for each tooth, he was like poking my gums, and he had an assistant, and he was reading out numbers. He was like 2, 3, 4A, 4B, 4B, 3, 3, 4B. I'm assuming that's like the status of that gum, good, bad, and in between, via numbers and letter systems. But it is kind of funny when you're not aware of what any of that means. So he's just like 3, 3, 4, 2, 4B, 4B. And I'm like, ugh, is that bad? Sounds like I have a lot of bad gums. But it also hurt a lot too because he was poking it, and it's like, I almost had to tell him to stop. I was like, man, the dentist does kind of stink. You're like, this hurts. Anyways, he does that whole thing. And then it was kind of funny because, like I said, I wasn't sure if I was going to have time to do the cleaning or not. And he finishes up and he goes, all right, we're going to have you do the cleaning with Sunday. And, you're laying on your back. You're just kind of like half napping. And I was like, okay, so wait, Sunday. I was like, Sunday? Are you guys open on Sunday? My first thought was like, darn it, I don't want to have to come back. But then my second thought was like, you guys are open on the weekend? That's not usually common with dentists for some reason. Which, by the way, dentists and doctors, it's like, make your hours the opposite of what they are. Okay? Who's available 8 to 5? Just be like 5 to 9 Monday through Wednesday, and then just open Saturday and Sunday. Okay? I'm tired of taking time off to come get my teeth looked at and my whatever doctors do looked at. But he goes, all right, we're going to do this with Sunday. And I was like, and he gets up and he puts his hand out to shake my hand. So I'm like, oh, is this the end? Like, am I going out? And he was like, oh, no, follow me. We're going to have Sunday take a look. And I was like, oh, okay. Wait, what? And then we walk in, and that was like the name of the lady that was going to clean my teeth. And I was like, oh, this is so confusing. So anyway, she does the whole teeth cleaning, and that's all good and well. It took forever. It was a long, there's a lot of stuff she had to do, I guess, plaque-wise. And it was funny because I had like on one tooth, I have kind of a sensitive spot where she was like scraping, with the and she went over it. And it's so funny when they have like, tools and equipment in your mouth, and you can't, it's hard to communicate. So they're like in your mouth, and then just they hit a sensitive spot, and all of a sudden I'm just like, ugh. I'm like a little kid. Oh, stop. That's too much. And so she told me, she was like, I can put some fluoride over it. Which my first thought there was like, I don't know. I feel like I should look into that. But basically, she said she could put, some fluoride adhesive or whatever to cover that up. And it was weird. She goes, I'll do that, but just when you go home, like you can't have like any rough food for like an hour or two. It takes a couple hours to bond to your tooth. So like you can't go home and have like popcorn. And then she said it again as if I wasn't like paying attention the first time. She's like, you can't have any popcorn. Like it's a big problem with people coming to the dentist and then I'm like, who's running home from the dentist immediately having Orville Redenbacher? I was like, dude, I live in an apartment. I do not live in a movie theater. I don't know why you're being so gung ho about the popcorn. I haven't popped a bag of popcorn since 1998. What's the deal? Who's out there? Just as soon as they get home, they're like, you know what I should have? Some corn, but popped. Popcorn that's a weird thing. Very, it's an okay snack if you're going to the movies. If you cover it, just like any food, you're like, hey, if it's covered in butter and salted, pretty good. You're like, what food isn't? Okay. But at least most foods are decent before the butter and salt. Popcorn without butter and salt, I mean, you might as well be chewing on grass. Okay. Not great. Feel like it's a healthy snack. You're like, yeah, look, I eat super healthy. There's some stuff out there that's tasty or decent without all this stuff. Just regular popcorn. I mean, that'll make a huge difference in a movie. If you have popcorn loaded with butter and salt and watch a good movie, you're like, dude, that was a good experience. If you watched a good movie with popcorn with nothing on it, you're like, I don't know what the movie was about. All I could think about was how bad that stuff that I put into my mouth was. Not good at all. Anyways, dentist, they took care of the stuff. And they also, it was a weird spot. It was like this shopping center. It was like a strip mall that had a second floor, but like a hidden second floor. It was one of those businesses that you get to and you walk in and it's like kind of so off the beaten path and like tough to get to. And then you get in and there's like nobody else in the office and you're like, I feel like you guys are not going to be open that much longer. I feel like you guys also, I called in, I think like on Friday, and usually it takes like a while, it can take like a couple weeks to get an appointment. I called in on Friday and they're like, you can come in. Yeah. Monday. You can come in Monday, which that's awesome. But also you're like, are you guys going to, tear my mouth apart? Because why are no patients there? Are you good at what you do? Do you have a license? So anyways, there's like nobody there and you just walk in and you're like, I feel like you guys are super excited that I'm here. I feel like I might be helping you make the rent this month. They were probably bummed out that my teeth weren't more messed up. Anyways, what can you do? It's, let's get into some shows I've done this week. This might be a longer pod today. I'm not sure. This recorder always scares me. I put the memory card in there, or the SD card, and turned it on, and it's like no data. A lot of times I'll turn it on, like if you take the SD card out and then put it back in, it like doesn't read it. And so now I'm like recording, and I'm like, I hope that this is recording. We'll find out. But yeah, I've done some fun shows this week. It's been a fun week of shows. I had a show on Tuesday and Thursday and Friday, and today is Saturday, but I'll have a show. I got a show tonight as well that I'm looking forward to. But yeah, so I went out on Monday to do an open mic. Like I said, I'm trying to get out and work through some new material. And boy, the mics are grim. Not and look, it's funny because that's what mics are, like in the beginning when you first start comedy, you're like, oh dude, this mic stunk. There was nobody listening. And then you just like do a bunch of mics and get used to the fact that that's what open mics are. And then now that I've done more shows and like less mics, I've kind of forgotten or like, gotten away from the understanding of that's just what open mics are. And so I'm trying to retrain my brain like, hey, it's fine that nobody's listening. Go do your jokes. Go practice your jokes. But yeah, it was just like a couple comics. And I didn't really have the material like memorized. So it's always weird when you go to a mic and you're like, all right, there's nobody that's really listening. So in order to come off as comfortable, maybe let me just talk about stuff and be in the moment. But also, I'm going to fewer open mics, and when I go to open mics, it's like I'm here to be productive. So I don't really want to, or I don't really have time to like, hey, let me like look comfortable and like just be in the moment for a minute. It's like, no, I'm here to say these words that I've barely memorized and that are going to come out real robotic. So that's what happened. And it was, it was whatever. But I will say I'm working on some new jokes, which I'll talk about here later. And I am pretty excited about them. One of them being the dentist, going to the dentist. But yeah, I did a show on Tuesday at a brewery in Wheat Ridge, suburb outside of Denver. And it was very fun. It was like a small side room in the back. There was like 20 people there. And did a 10-minute spot. Like I've said it before, but I'm hosting so much now. Any spots that I'm able to do, it's just a bonus. It's nice to not be hosting and then to just go have fun. So that was on Tuesday. Wait, maybe I went to the dentist on Tuesday. I can't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday, but I went and riffed about going to the dentist for the first time in a long time. And that was fun. Then just, did some jokes, did some riffing, some crowd work, which again, I'm not doing as much. I don't do a ton anyways, but because I'm hosting a lot, I don't do it a lot in host sets. So it's always nice to like mix up material with just like being in the moment and talking with people. And that was a very fun show. I had a very good time there, especially on a Tuesday. There's not a lot of Tuesday shows. So anytime people are coming out to a show on Tuesday, that's like a bonus. So that was fun. Wednesday went out. Wasn't on the show, but there's a new material night at a spot off Broadway, which is like a half a mile from my place. So I walked down there to check it out. It's at this karaoke bar, which they used to have a new material night here back when it used to be Giordano's, like a Chicago pizza place, deep dish pizza. And that went out of business. And then they had another pizza place that also went out of business. I think somebody said it was a Ninja Turtle themed pizza place. And I was like, yeah, I could have told you that wasn't going to make it. What? That's what even is that? I guess Ninja Turtles, obviously their thing was like eating pizza. But you're like, who's this for? Like, I grew up on the Ninja Turtles. I don't care about like, who's this for? People in between the ages of 32 and 38. Your whole business model is based on 0.5% of the population in this city. So they went under. Shocker. But this karaoke bar, I'm excited. The new material stuff, it's like great to have places with new material. But I will say it's a karaoke bar. The whole thing is like karaoke. Wednesday to Saturday or Wednesday to Sunday. They're open from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. Super late. So the comedy shows at like 7 or 7:30. So they open early just for this specific event. But it's one of those places where it's like, yo, this is going to go under in a month. Like, there's no way that I don't know. I mean, look, it's cool that people are like trying different things, but and I'm, maybe it does well and I'm an idiot. But it's just one of those places that you like go into and you're like, there's no chance this is going to survive. I don't know anybody who's like that gung-ho about karaoke. I know there's some people, like if you go to karaoke, you see like a handful of people out of all of the people that are like, I'm into karaoke. Most people are like, hey, we're just out at this bar and karaoke started and I'm kind of drunk, so let me go like sing a song. There's a couple people that are like, I came here to sing a bunch of songs because I love it. And I don't know. We'll see how it works out. But the show itself was fun. There's a bunch of comics there. It was a fun hang. And it was funny. The host there, he asked me, he was like, do you want to do a guest spot? And this might be the first time in my life, in my comedy life, that I was like, oh, no thanks. Because it's new material and I'm working on these new jokes, but I don't have them memorized well enough. So I was just like, oh, no thanks. Because I didn't want to do old stuff. I want to do new stuff, but I just didn't have it down yet. So it's kind of funny to like be like, oh no, no, thank you. This is the first time that I'm not wanting to go on stage. But I just wanted to, wanted to do that. I wanted to memorize this stuff and do it good the first time. But that was Wednesday night. Thursday night, had a show at another bar on Broadway, which again, if you're not in Denver, it's just kind of like a main strip of Denver. And it was very fun. It was kind of a side room. So it's like, I don't know the theme of the bar, but it's just like a regular sports bar kind of place. And then there's just a side room that has a stage that I'm sure they have a bunch of bands and stuff on a lot of nights. But obviously, I was not going to sing songs. I was there to do comedy. And it was like a ticketed show. So it was just people who paid for tickets. And it was a smaller crowd. It was like, maybe 8 to 10 people. But it was very fun. It's one of those, I've said it over and over and over again, but I appreciate no matter how big the crowd is. It's great if there's 100 people, they're all listening and you can just do your jokes and they crush. But also it's very fun to have to pivot and be in the moment and like try your best to entertain people with smaller crowds or in different situations. And the people were having a good time. Like they were there to have fun. So I closed out that show and, it was like 15 or 20 minutes. Had a lot of fun. Had a good time. I also talked about going to the dentist there. And it was funny because I was asking people, I was like, it's been like 4 or 5 years since I've been to the dentist. And I started asking people in the crowd. And I was like, how often do you guys go to the dentist? Most people go like twice a year, right? And no joke, I like the couple people that I asked, the first girl I asked, she goes, I just went recently too. It had been 12 years since I had gone. And I was like, whoa. I thought you guys were going to be like judging me hardcore for waiting as long as I did. And it's like, you just blew my poor hygiene routine out of the water. So 12 years for her. And then this other dude, no. She said, I take that back. She said, I think 9 years. And then the next guy that I asked, he goes, I actually just went recently as well. It had been 12 years. And I'm like, what is happening? I'm not even going to ask anybody else because it's been 20 years. I've never been to the dentist. I have no teeth. My teeth are all rotten. But that was kind of funny to be like, you guys are going to judge me. And it's like, actually, now I'm judging you. Now I feel like a bad person for judging you on waiting a decade plus to go to the dentist. But that was a very fun show. Got to riff some and just have fun with the crowd. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. That was Thursday night. Friday, went to, last night, did a Don't Tell show, which was fun. Did that at a winery. Which I've done in the past. It was a fun show. The crowd was a little bit tight, and but it was still fun. They were having a good time. Did the show, and it was funny. After the show, one of the comics was like everybody left, and I broke down, and one of the comics was trying to watch the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight, which if you're not familiar, it's just a big boxing fight between a YouTuber and a 58-year-old man. Mike Tyson is 58, and he's fighting a 20-something-year-old. And it was streamed on Netflix. So it was like a big first-time live event, I think, which I'm pretty sure Netflix had like a ton of issues with it as far as like streaming errors and whatever. But we watched that, and it was like 8 2-minute rounds. It was a very short thing, and it was just like, I feel like so many events like this and so much stuff in my life, to be honest, similar to this, where you're like, the hype is way up here and then it's like so underwhelming when you see it. It was just like Mike Tyson kind of got beat up, but you could tell Jake Paul like was holding back to like make it a fight. Like he wasn't going all in. He wasn't trying to knock Mike Tyson out to like make it an event. You're like, yo, this is so lame. It reminds me of like basically the same thing as all the bands that I loved when I was like in college. when you're like going through your music discovery time period. Now those bands, when they put out albums, I get like super hyped up and excited. And then you hear it and you're like, this is not the same. I'm not getting any of the same feelings that I used to. This is whatever. It's like I'm so excited to hear it. I want to love it. It's just not that good. So that was kind of lame. I was hoping for a knockout one way or the other, but I watched it. And that's what, I'm watching some boxing now. I never watched boxing growing up. The whole boxing had its heyday back in the whatever 70s, 80s, 90s. And it really took a dip. And now boxing is just YouTubers and celebrities. So, whatever. It was weird for that show, too, because before the show, obviously I'm hosting a bunch of these Don't Tell shows. And some people obviously come back to see shows, whether it's the same venue or different venues. Like, just people will return and watch multiple Don't Tell shows. And I try not to get too self-conscious about it, but these two ladies came in and they were like, we were here last time. Is it going to be the same lineup? Because they saw me and they're like, you were here last time. And I was like, oh no, it's a totally different lineup, just me. And they're like, okay, like, are you going to do different stuff? And I was like, oh gosh, first off, I don't know what jokes I did last time. Secondly, it's probably going to be similar material. Because like I said, I'm starting to work through new material now, but I haven't really implemented that into the host sets. So I was like, oh gosh, I'm sorry to bum you guys out, but it's probably going to be some of the same. But it was fine. It was a decent show. They were a little bit tight, but everybody seemed to have a good time. I think it was just one of those crowds that was like more like head nodding smilers. Like, yeah, that was funny, rather than outward laughers. But what can you do? I am working through new material. Like I said, I've talked about, I've really hashed out the getting older and having some injuries bit. I still need to work on it. I haven't said it at I haven't really said it at mics. I've really developed it and edited it here at home. And I've got it memorized. I think it's pretty decently funny. So I got to just hit it at mics to just say it into a microphone. But I've also got to expand on it and I've got some ideas I need to keep working on. But I'm pretty excited about that. And then I also have, like I said, I'm working on just a bit about going to the dentist. And also the ants. The ants that I was just talking about in my apartment, trying to write about that. Who doesn't love a good joke about ants? Okay? I know I do. Not enough people do it. Okay, I want to hear ant material. I want to hear beetle material, grasshopper material. Okay, Bug's Life, great movie. Why aren't we talking about ants more? As a society, we've really just kind of dipped down into the lamest topics that people talk about. Movies, they're just like, let's do a remake of this and that. You're like, yo, do a remake of A Bug's Life. That was a great movie. Okay, Ants, the movie, don't remember it as much, but pretty sure that was good too. Toy Soldiers, didn't have any ants in it, but I liked it. Okay, and then Eminem wrote a song called Toy Soldiers. Kind of like that too. Not a huge fan of Eminem, but that song was pretty good. Anyways, that was a weird tangent. But I'll go over a couple of things. I think this is going to be a longer pod than usual. I'm caffeinated, so I'm gonna roll with it. You guys are getting extra content. Is anybody still listening? That's fun. It's like, hey guys, I recorded a longer podcast, and people are like, oh, we only listened to the first 7 minutes anyways, so it doesn't matter if you went 15 minutes longer. But I've been looking into gyms in the area. Like I said, my knee's feeling better. My shoulder is still a little wonky, but they're both a little off. But I've been running a little bit, and I don't necessarily want to lift for a while, probably because of my shoulder. But at least at a gym, like a treadmill or some just basic stuff I would like to do, especially as it snows and stuff. Like I can't really run when it snows, and it's very important. I've noticed with working from home, feeling isolated, the winter, less light, less vitamin D, all that stuff. I should find a gym, but there's nothing really close. I live in a very centralized area in Denver, and there's not really many gyms that are close by. Like there's literally, I think, one gym. Other than there's maybe one or two like themed gyms where it's like, classes or whatever, and it's probably like $100 or $200 a month to go do some random CrossFit-esque type workout. But there's only one just like, hey, here's a gym. It's just like free workout, like whatever, treadmills, ellipticals, free weights, like you do whatever, just an open gym. And it's just a basic open gym, and it's like $70 a month, which, look, some of you might think like, that's not that much, but it's like, yeah, dude, it's the same equipment and setup as a Planet Fitness. It's just the basics. So it's like, that's $10. Why is this $70? I don't know if I want to spend that. So we'll see. I really feel like I need a spot. So when it snows, I don't just have like, hey, it's been 5 days since I've been able to get outside. I'm doing nothing. Like I need to be consistently exercising for my mental health and well-being. But looking into that, also looking into co-working spaces as well. Working from home has been isolating, and I was like, maybe I can get pay for a co-working space, and once or twice a week just go be around people and like have something different in the routine to mix it up and like not feel so isolated. But that's expensive too. Everything like 150, 200 is like the absolute minimum per month. And it's just like, look, I don't make that money. I don't make that kind of money. Also, my current job, I don't know if I'm going to have my job in the near future. It is kind of up in the air. Not because I'm doing a poor job or because I don't care, but like the last month has been pretty crazy. Basically, like the company's not doing very well financially, I guess, and they're like freaking out. And it's been not my favorite time. Just people, freaking out and be like, you got to do this, you got to do that. Everybody's overloaded and pushing and this and that. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. But maybe, I guess I'm kind of waiting to see what happens there before rushing into some of these gyms and co-working spaces and places that would take more of my money. But yeah, what else? What else have I been up to? I actually, right before I did the podcast, I took a shower, and it was funny because I was, you know how showers sometimes, I don't know why they do this, but they do this. They'll just go from the temperature that you set it to extremely hot or extremely cold. It's very obnoxious, but they'll just change. Be like, hey, did you want your back to get burnt for a half a second? Did you want that? We figured that maybe you would want that. So without your permission, we just made it scalding hot for you. And I'm like, no, actually, I put it on like this comfortable warm temperature because that's what I like. And the shower's like, yeah, but have you tried getting 3rd-degree burns on your back? Have you tried that? Because we think maybe you would like it. And I'm like, no, I kind of like my skin to not be damaged. And they're like, how do you know? Have you tried it? Or the opposite. I guess the cold is annoying, but it's better. The scalding hot, where you're like, yo, this is what happened. I was in the shower and it went scalding hot for a second. And it was funny. I'll if you're watching the video, I'll try to do it. I did like a little like worm dance, like I arched my back. And it was funny because in my head, I was like, oh, that was kind of a smooth body movement, which I'm terrible at dancing. Like my body does not move in a fluid way. I'm bad at dancing. I don't dance. Weddings, I go, no, thank you. And people go, no, you got to come out. And I go, I said, no, thank you. Do not grab my arm. I'm not 11 years old. Okay. I'm a grown adult. Don't want to do it. But this was like the first time in my life where like my body moved in a fluid way, and it just made me laugh because it's like, oh, I can't dance. If I'm trying to dance, I can't. But if you burn my back with scalding hot water, a little Michael Jackson comes out in me. Just the dance moves, not the other. This is a clean podcast, guys. Don't, you know. Who's another good dancer that's not controversial? Anyways, gotten a little bit further in my book, Children of Time. Like I said, that book, it's about some space travel stuff, starting a new Earth is no more. So trying to save humanity and start again on a new planet. It's been fun. It's been good. They also have, I think I talked about it last time, it's this human race, but it's also like it bounces back and forth between the humans and then these spiders and ants on this planet that's like growing and accelerating and all this and that. And also in there, I learned a lot about ants. So, again, sometimes you just live and learn about things that you weren't expecting. I never thought that I'd be like, you know what? I've picked up a lot of knowledge in the last 3 weeks about ants. And you know what? I'm not complaining. Pretty cool stuff. But it's been pretty good. I say it every time, but give me some book recommendations. For the love of God, send me a message. Let me know what to read. But I'll end it there. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully this wasn't too long. If you like it a little bit longer, let me know. I don't know if I bump it from 45 minutes to an hour. Would you listen? You let me know. If not, I'll keep it at 45. But thank you guys for listening. That's the end of the episode here for today. But appreciate you guys tuning in. And I'll see you guys again next time.